Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hi, Red O'Loughlin here. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, regardless of where you are in the world. Today our guest is from Wales in the United Kingdom. Dawn Bates is a best-selling author, many books, found on 5 different continents. She's a developmental, she develops globally leaders to become authorities, to help others and to expand their brands and things. A lot of things about Dawn today that we're going to cover. So with that being said, Dawn, please join me.
Hi, Red. How are you?
Exceptionally well, as always.
Good, good.
What's the weather like over there in Wales this time of year?
Very foggy.
Very foggy.
Yeah, we've had a few storms where we've had like red warnings and lots of rain and hail, but today it's really foggy, so there's no sailing for me today.
Okay, just so everybody knows, we're supposed to get a lot of rain and stuff here in the next hour or so. Not usually a problem, but if I disappear for some reason, that may be a clue. Okay. So you have a passion for helping other people, and you do that through your books and your author academy and your all sorts of things. So let's get started first with the authoring part of your life. When did you start to discover that you were really meant to be an author?
When did I discover I was meant to be an author? I call myself an accidental author because I remember saying to a chap once that I was sick and fed up with answering everybody's questions, and that I was going to write a book. And then a year later, I met him again. He goes, "Have you written that book yet?" And I said, "Oh, no." And then I went back and I started writing it. And then about a year after that was published. I was making dinner for me and my children listening. I was due to be a guest on the BBC to discuss the events in Egypt, having lived out there during the uprising. And I was hearing such rubbish. And I just looked at my dog and went, "I'm going to write another book. I can't be doing with all the lies." And so I ended up writing another book, and then another book, and then another book. But I've always had a passion for writing. I've always done a lot of copywriting, magazine articles for local, regional and national newspapers on business and just events happening around the world that I had experience and knowledge of. I've been a complete book nerd all my life. I spend more time with books than I do with humans, which is a lot less drama.
Well, maybe a lot less drama within your sphere of influence, but there's certainly a lot of drama going on in the brain if you're emotionally captured by the events and the action and everything. I find myself sometimes, just I'm there and then something happens and I'm visibly shaken. Or, let me go back. I got to read that again because I didn't know what happened. So there's a lot of things just our brain as we read.
Yeah, there is. I'm not disputing that, Red. I'm just, that was, I guess, more of a facetious comment. A little bit of British sarcasm for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
We had somebody here from Amsterdam last week, so it's a fairly worldwide audience, and the European humor is a little different than the American humor, but
yeah, it is.
It is what it is. Okay, let's go a little bit into you as a writer. How long did it take you to write the first book?
The first book, Didn't know, probably about a year.
Uh-huh.
Second book, it took me about 7 days.
Oh,
77,000 words in 7 days.
pretty
I
impressive.
average between 11 and 15,000 words a day when I'm writing a book.
Okay. So we're going to get into your series coming up here in a couple of minutes or so. But as you're writing a
Hey,
book,
Eric, sorry, get read. So I just
do you see yourself writing a series of books when you first start out, or is the fact that the topic is so wide that you can't cover everything in a normal size book and you have to go to a series?
No, each book is very different. I always knew the sequel series would be a series. I knew the Man Up series would be a series. You've just seen Steve pop up there. He is a very dear person to myself, a very dear friend. We go way back. I always knew that the Man Up series would be a series of books in the life transformation series that I do, because again, looking at the strategy of how I write and what I write, I have a plan for nearly 100 books that I'm working on and working towards completion. And it's about making sure that everything that I'm doing actually fits into that plan. So there will be individual books in a series, and it won't become a series until all of those books have been written. Or I will start out writing a trilogy, or I'll start out writing a series of books. So it really does depend on what the subject is. It depends on whether, so for example, with Steve, we were discussing the ability for men to talk about their mental health issues and to help prevent male suicide. That is the first of 3 books in the Man Up series. The next book in that series will be called Male versus Man. And then will be the third book in that series will be an anthropological book on the how society is emasculating men. And that's a trilogy within something called the Life Transformation series. So again, it very much depends on what the subject is and how it fits into my plan for the books that I have all mapped out.
Okay, so you're writing 10 to 15,000 words a day on one of your second book. How much time does that involve?
Well, when I sit down and write the book, that can, I mean, it depends on the subject, and it will depend on how many notes I have or whether it's just a conscious stream. So, I mean, if I'm using a lot of notes that I've got all laid out, then it will I'll probably only do about 11,000 words in about 10 hours. But if it's a conscious stream, it's something I know it is just pure writing, then it will be about 15,000 words in anywhere between 8 to 10 hours. And that includes, and during those times, I'm getting up and I'm swimming, or I'm getting up and I'm taking the dog out for a walk. I'm getting up and I'm making a freshly cooked meal from scratch. Depends on what the subject is.
Okay, so it sounds like you're a full-time writer, regardless of what else is happening. When do you have time for
Absolutely.
research?
Well, it's all part of the process.
Yeah.
So and this is the thing, I don't use AI for research either. I don't use AI for my writing. I find AI, when we're looking at research and writing, I find it quite disrespectful to the readers. And it's a very lazy way of writing and researching. I'm not a fan of AI when it comes to literature. But you, again, before you sit down and write a book, you have to do your research.
Mhm.
Every writer who is a true writer will spend a lot of time researching the material. To not do so would, like I say, it would be insulting to our readers, because, and also to those who believe in us, because we're going to be invited onto shows like this, or onto stages, or we're going to have titles given to us, such as, I mean, there's one that gets thrown around these days. It's almost laughable, like thought leader, or if we're going to be an industry expert. If we're not writing the book properly and we're not doing our own research, how can we be an industry expert? We're just lying to people. You know, just because we can regurgitate a handful of facts, we need to be able to withstand any part of our book being someone reading any part of it and then challenging us on that book. And if we've had AI write it for us, or we have not done the proper research and we have embodied that knowledge, then we're not being an industry expert. We're not being a true expert on the subjects that we write about, whether it's industry or human rights like I write about, or whether it's trauma, or whether it you know, is environment, whatever it is. We actually have to, when we write something, we're putting our name to it. And unless we value our readers, and we value knowledge and the craft of writing, and our own name and our parents who gave us our name, then, you know, what we actually, yeah, there's just, I have as you can probably tell, I have quite strong opinions on the use of AI and people being lazy when it comes to research and writing.
So you believe being the full authority, having the credibility, and being able to account for it when required.
Absolutely. People believe in us. Everybody that believes in you, and everybody who has interviewed you or supported you on your journey, for you to not do your job properly and research and write properly is insulting, not only to the reader, but to everybody who has believed in you. Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to insult somebody or disrespect their belief in you?
Okay, so you're writing, you have some series, you know, in advance nowadays. It's a trilogy, or it's going to be more of something else. So you kind of have your mind mapped out. You're talking about 100 books that you want to get done. That's pretty audacious goal there, and I wish you the absolute best on finishing that, maybe even 200. But as you're developing these things, you have a couple different ways of going. One that you truly understand, and you just sit there and just go. Kinds of books are those? Are they over a variety of fields, or are they in the same genre, or what?
It can be, for example, if I'm in a conscious stream, I call it the unconscious conscious creation process. So for example, when I wrote Wallahi, that was written in 7 days. I lived the Egyptian uprising. I knew Egyptian history. I knew what was going on politically. I could just sit and write that. When I wrote Crossing the Line, there were parts of that where I just sat and I wrote it because I lived it, I breathed it. And then the bits that took a little bit longer, when I needed to check legal facts, I need to check legal clauses. When I wrote Fair Alpha, that was just a pouring out of my soul. When I wrote Faith, that again was just a pouring out of my soul. These were people's stories I knew. These were stories that had been trusted to me. And they just poured out of me. There were a few things in Pandora that I needed to double check. There were things in Layla that I needed to double check. When I wrote my story as one of the chapters in The Potent Power of Menopause, I knew that story inside out. So that just poured out of me. So again, there are books that I wrote with Debbie Debonair for Alive to Thrive. There were certain things that I needed to check, because if I'm working on an anthology with somebody and I'm helping them to embody their leadership skills, where they're leading a team of others through the process of writing an anthology, and the people are sending me the manuscript, or they're sending me their chapter for me to create it into a anthology, then again I have to check that all of their details that they're putting into the book are factually accurate. I have to make sure that when people send me their manuscripts, that what they're sending me is appealing to a global audience, which, you know, with my 44 countries behind me and my multiple languages, is a lot easier for me to do than those who have only lived in a single country or only speak a single language.
I was at a Christmas party a couple days ago, and he was a lawyer, and he had 4 pretty good sized monitors and 1 keyboard. And in the process of just chatting, because he writes briefs and he does this and other things, he's pulling up sources all the time, and he's able to pull them together. And I said, well, I kind of realize it because when I'm writing my own, I have 10 or 12 or 15 sources that I'm constantly going back to, and there's only so many tabs you get at the top of the page. But tell me a little bit about how your office is set up, what kind of software you use, how many monitors you have, if it's multiple. Just kind of give us an idea of what your workspace looks like.
At the moment, it's got a jigsaw on it. Yeah, my tabs are books. And there will be, I don't like having multiple tabs open. I only work from one single laptop. I don't have multiple screens. That is just overwhelmed for me. That's too much fake light, too much electricity resonance. So I use a lot of books, a lot of notepads. I go through a lot of legal tabs, a lot of post-it notes. I have books open. I will have scraps of paper with notes on it. But yeah, at the moment, my desk has a 1,500 piece jigsaw on it. So yeah, I like a puzzle.
Yeah, but you're comfortable there and you know where everything's at, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So for example, I'm writing a book at the moment. I'm actually pulling together the third book in the Man Up series. So I've got a lot of anthropological books, a lot of neurological books on how the male female brains work. So I'll be looking at, a lot of history, a lot of different books, cultures around the world. And then depending on which chapter I'm writing, I will have the different books open or the different research papers. I'll have some white papers, or I'll have like university websites open. I like to, I'm a bit of a geek, or I'll go to the library. So if I haven't got the books here at home, I'll go to a library and I'll be there and I'll have, a huge table full of books. Yeah. Yeah, I
Okay,
get to.
do you do your research exclusively in English, or do you use your knowledge of other languages to pull up some other references in foreign languages?
It depends on the nation and the culture. So, for example, if I need to check something out about Spanish culture or Portuguese culture, I'll use that language. If I am doing something about the Arab world, then I'll make sure that I've got that, but I'll make sure that I've got a translator of that different Arabic language, because even though I speak Arabic fluently and I used to be able to read it fluently, I now need somebody else to help me because my reading of Arabic is not as strong as it used to be. But again, it'll be looking at which area of the Arab world I'm researching. So it might be the Shami region, looking at Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. Or if it's looking at Egypt, then I'll need a friend or a colleague to help me with the Egyptian Arabic. If it's Gulf Arabic, it's again something completely different. But yeah, it will depend on where I'm researching as to which language I will be reading in. And then again, I have that checked out by a friend or colleague. It's not my mother tongue, so again, even though I might be able to speak them fluently, if it's not my mother tongue and I don't understand all the nuances and all the different ways in which something could be shared, then I need to get it checked out. I'm very thorough.
Okay, so are any of your books in foreign languages?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No, some of them were going to be translated into Arabic, but I couldn't find a translator that was going to translate the book as it was, rather than having their own political or religious bias written. And that's one of the biggest difficulties when you're translating a book into a different language, making sure that you find someone who, especially with the books that I write, because they are about culture, either culture, religion, or politics. So finding somebody who isn't going to put their own bias is very challenging. And one of the reasons why I write my books the way that I do, and when people come to me for a manuscript assessment and I'm looking at it from a cultural diversity perspective, or cultural cohesion perspective, as I like to call it, it's making sure that when they actually go out to translation, there is very little that needs to be changed, and there's very little room for people to actually add their own political bias.
Okay, how about editing? The first book took you a year, second book took you a week. I'm sure they both didn't take a year to edit. But what's been your experience with editing, and what have you settled on for the last several books with regard to your editors?
I have multiple editors, depending again on the content. If it is, so Kelsey she's my editor. um, she has taught me a lot. I'm a much better writer now because of Kelsey. Whenever I write a book now, I'm like, oh gosh, I hope Kelsey likes it. I hope Kelsey approves. But Kelsey, she is more memoir based, biographical. If I'm writing something that needs a political or a legal proof, somebody who actually has expertise in a certain area, then I need to find that person with legal expertise, or whether it's I'm looking at something, for example, when we did Man Up, Tough to Talk, and we did Alive to Thrive, the book with Debbie, we had to look at medical negligence. We had to look at how we went through the process of making sure that what we were writing in there, we didn't actually get any comeback on either Steve or Debbie or myself as a publisher, because when you're talking about things such as trauma or about suicide and why the reasons why people do it and the methodology that they use, we have to be very careful that, one, we're not triggering the reader, or we're not instructing the reader on how to do it, whilst also remaining true. So again, you have to choose your editors and your proofreaders very, very carefully. And also, before I choose the editor, I have a number of them that I work with, and that I trust to refer me to other people. I actually have to make sure that they are okay with the content that they're going to be editing. And I need to see samples, and I have to have quite a conversation, because some of the subjects that I write about are not easy subjects. And so again, I have to prepare the editor and the proofreader for them to know that this is some of the content. Are you okay with this? Who do you have supporting you? Have you been through something like this yourself? Because again, all of these things matter when it actually comes to finalizing the book. It's about being respectful again to the reader. And when I work on anthologies, so for example, with the Man Up book, with Tough to Talk, what I had to do is I had all of these chapters, and I'm looking through them. Okay, well, if I put that chapter here and that chapter and then that chapter, that's quite heavy reading for the reader. So I need to break up these different subject matters and make sure that the reader actually has some kind of respite. So we needed something that was probably quite heavy, something a little bit lighter. Although when you're talking about trauma and suicide, these are not light subjects, but it was about how the energy of the story landed with the reader, but also the length of the length of the chapters. So there's a lot that goes into this, which is why I get quite frustrated with people who just think that writing an anthology and having 20, 30, 40 people. I mean, I even saw an anthology the other day that got 56 people that had written a book. It was only about 60,000 words. You can't really share anything of value with that many authors in a single book. It does the reader a disservice. And when you're writing something that is supposed to be of service, which is what a book is, whether it's allowing someone to escape from their life, whether it's educating somebody, whether it's giving them insights, when you see anthologies like that, it's more about the person's ego and prestige rather than actually being of benefit to the reader.
You had me going down one path, and I wanted to come back at that one, and now I'm trying to figure out where I was at. I got a little bit of brain fog recently from some things I was going through this summer. But anyway, audiobooks. Do you have any audiobooks out there? I did not check before I called you, before we joined today. Usually I do, but I apologize.
No, that's fine. We've all got stuff that we're doing, and everything is in divine timing. We don't actually have any audiobooks as yet. One, because I've been traveling around the world non-stop for 7 years and getting into a recording studio and finding a space that I could record my own personal books. But so my books have not been put into an audiobook. I think, no, Carmel's book, Unlocked. This one is available on audio, Carmel. Don't know if you can see that. That one's available on audio. What I love about this book is you can feel Carmel in this book. It feels very elegant. Yeah, one of my favorite books, this one. One of my favorites. I love that book.
How has your marketing changed for your author career over time?
I'm not somebody who will do a 99 cent special in 24 hours just to get the title of international bestseller. For me, that's just not a strategy that I use. I mean, if I really wanted to, I could get a book of my dog's paw prints and put it in a very obscure category at 99 cents for 24 hours and we could have an international bestseller. It doesn't actually give any value or a nod to the quality of the contents of the book. So my marketing is a mixture of press releases, email marketing, social media, promotions. For example, I show up on a lot of podcasts. I talk about it. I've written lots of articles about various different books and sent those off to different magazines, publications, newspapers. I put notices up in different areas. I write to various different organizations. I put bookmarks up at the gym for the men. For example, the Tough to Talk book. I mean, I'm talking about that one because that's one of the most recent ones. We have bookmarks that I hand out at business events. So this is a Sin Eater one. This is all about teen mental health. Here is a Tough to Talk one. So we put these out. So if I go to a business event, I hand out bookmarks. They have my contact details on the back there. So again, it's a wide range of different things. We have distribution deals that we're locking in. Yeah, it just really depends on what's going on internationally. I've written stories for international news platforms as well as national newspapers. We've sold certain stories. So it really does depend on what's going on around the world in the news and the person who has written the book, because there are some people who are not ready for huge marketing campaigns. We've done Facebook ads, we've done LinkedIn ads. It really does depend, because there are some people that want to write the book. So for example, with Carmel, her book writing was more of a healing journey, and for her to invest a large sum of money into herself and to actually go through that process of kicking imposter syndrome. So her book isn't one that is going to be mass marketed, because that's not what she wanted. It was more of, this is who I am, for her family and her friends. And slowly but surely she's building it up, and we're taking it bit by bit with her. So it just depends on the author and what their capacity is and what their comfort zones are, really. And again, how much budget they have. If you have the budget, then the marketing is endless.
I read where you spent a fair amount of time on yachts sailing around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm
So
going sailing tomorrow, which is good. I'm off sailing tomorrow, weather permitting, so that'll be good.
So you've been in the 7 seas, huh?
Mm-hmm. Many of the oceans, yeah. 20,000 deep blue.
You also have a truth serum podcast. Is that something you do? Did I read that correctly?
Yeah, I do. That's we use the truth serum. We're planning out series 3 and 4 at the moment. some of those conversations go as resource material in my 7-week author course, and some of my courses that I do for people. They're upon platforms, so they just go out. People will find those on Apple. They're the first two. I'm not a podcaster. I'm somebody who has conversations. I record them. I'm not intending on adding too many titles to my name. I don't collect titles. I have a purpose and I have a mission, and I need to look at how different people learn. So, for example, if I'm some people might be a kinesthetic learner, some people might be an auditory learner. So when I do my my podcast, it's about looking at, okay, so if they've got a written activity in the coursework that I set my students or my clients, they might need to do something physical. They might have to do some journaling. They might have to listen to a podcast that I've done, or listen, like some of the Truth Serum. And the next two series will be recorded in 2025, and they're going to be more about the subjects of the most recent books. Again, some of the books are promoted throughout the Truth Serum. We're actually looking at that and re-strategizing the podcast recordings. But like I say, I'm not somebody who wants to collect as many titles as possible. I actually have a goal and I have a strategy, and everything has got to fit into that, really.
Who's a good client for you for your publishing?
One that pays on time. One who's not going to want everything for absolutely nothing. No, a publishing client is somebody who is writing a book about a purpose that has a strong message. It's about creating positive social change, and making sure that people can gain something. Because the thing is, it's like with all of my books, I mean, you'll see Raising Grit there by Beth. Beth wanted to address the issues of mental health as well as breakdown of families, but also the resilience of our of the youth. And we're looking at how, I mean, I bloody love that book. I absolutely love, I've thoroughly enjoyed working with Beth on that book. That's being published at the end of January by ebook, ready for the paperback to come back out a month later. So end of January for the ebook, end of February for the paperback. And then we'll do the hardback version and then the audio book. So we stagger the publication dates of each of them. So again, it's a social impact book. It's again, let's look at what's actually happening within society. Let's look at some of these expertise. What are you bringing to this? I'm talking to somebody at the moment, and we're looking at pulling a book together about the IT industry and what's going on within that. So yeah, there's quite a bit that it has to be a social impact book. I'm not just going to write and work with somebody just to give them the ego of having the title author. They've got to actually have a purpose driven behind them, and they've got to have the funds to do it. Because I don't buy their manuscript read. I don't take any royalties from any of my clients' books. It's all belongs to them. I'm more of the guardian of their copyright and their intellectual property. I'll publish it, and everything belongs to them.
We talked just before the show started about writers. Why do they write? You know, is it for your ego, or for the mere fact you have a title after your name, or is there a reason for helping people, or whatever it may happen to be? Is that part of what your Author Academy also looks at as far as the people who sign up to work with you?
No, the Author Academy is something where anybody who wants to write a book can come and join us. We're launching that fully next year, and there'll be a weekly moment, as my coach Rich calls it. And so people will be able to come on, they'll be able to speak to me, they'll be able to gain expertise when we'll be in a group, and they can pose questions. It can be anybody who writes a book. and they're wanting to get ahead, share ideas and best practice, but to work with me personally and for me to put my fire on the spine of the book, it actually has to be a social impact. If they want me to publish it under their own brand, I can do that. If they want me to publish it, if they, you know, I'm not going to put my brand on something that is not on brand for my company. I will, like I said, I'll help them get published. I'll provide them all the services and all the bits and pieces that they need. But unless it's on my brand and unless their book is of a social impact, I won't work with them on a one-to-one. I'll do a manuscript assessment for people. So if they want me to read their manuscript and give them ideas on it from a marketing perspective, additional revenue streams, if they want me to look at the developmental editing of it and what they need to be looking for, as well as different ways to market and point them in the direction, because if their manuscript is not on brand for me, then I can actually go, well, you might want to speak to this publisher, you might want to go and speak to other publishers that I know, and so I can direct them. But to work with me on a book like Beth did and like Steve did and Debbie, then the book actually has to have a social purpose behind it.
What is your preferred method for people to contact you, and then how do they find your books? How do they buy your books?
I prefer people to contact me to buy my books, because then, you know, I get, you know, I can put a printed message in the inside and it's a more personalized book. Most people can buy the books from Amazon, but I advise people to go directly to a bookstore. They can, I mean, you've got my LinkedIn profile up there. People can contact me through LinkedIn if they wish. I prefer that. They can join me on Instagram. It's quite interesting. I deleted that profile. I deleted everything off. I probably nearly 30,000 people I deleted off Facebook and Instagram. And I started all over again a few months ago. I believe in organic growth. I deleted 1,300 people off my LinkedIn profile about a month ago. I'm quite ruthless. I like my circle to be intentional. If people want to follow me, then they can do. But yeah, the thing is, because of the way in which my books are, the content of the book. So for example, again, I'm going to mention Tough to Talk and Man Up. We prefer people to buy the books directly from the author, because then they get the royalties straight away, and the money starts working in the charities immediately. Whereas if you buy a book from Amazon, the reader might get the book immediately, but the charity doesn't get the royalties for maybe 2 to 3 months. I'm one of very few publishers that will pay out regularly on a 2 to 3 month turnaround. Most publishers pay out on a 6 month turnaround. So if you're buying from Amazon, not only is the publisher, I mean, this is other publishers, as soon as I get the royalties and we've done the accounting, then it goes directly to the charity. But that's still a 2 month turnaround. With other publishers, if you're buying the book immediately from Amazon, then Amazon are sitting on that money, then the publishers are sitting on that money. So they're making money off the interest. Might not be huge amounts, but still, we want the money to go directly to the charity as soon as possible. So with the Man Up book, go directly to toughtotalk.com. With my books, buy them directly from me. Send me a message from my website, send me a message through LinkedIn, or from Instagram. I'm not on Facebook. I did have a marketing manager, but that person's been removed from my company. So Facebook's a bit, it's in the water. It's not doing much. I'm not really interested in Facebook, if I'm completely honest with you. You can contact me on Twitter as well. I don't think I've put that in the show notes. What do they call it now? X.com, don't they? But yeah, that you can contact me on Twitter, which is MuzDawnBates33. Again, I've called it Twitter. I know it's called X. But yeah, it's if people really want to get hold of me, they will do. If people want to make the effort and actually put effort into their book, and they're willing to work with us, me and my team, to drive their book forward, then they're very welcome to come and talk to me.
Okay, so dawnbates.com, that's BATES.com, and that's
right,
for
yeah.
our audio audience who's not looking at the screen today. And Dawn, thank you so very much for your insights, for your time,
You're
for
very
everything
welcome.
today. I
Thank you for
really
your
and truly
time.
enjoyed it. I look forward to our next conversation.
All right,
And
then.
have a wonderful sailing trip tomorrow. I hope the weather's good for you. Take care. This is Greta Laughlin. We're signing out on the corner bookstore today. In about 20 minutes, the Wise Ones is going to have Ellen Damaso. She is a fashion empowerment guru who looks at developing your brand and through wardrobe styling and a number of other things. But I expect this to be just a really super enjoyment conversation with Ellen. So please join us if you can. If not, go to YouTube on the USA Global TV part of the archive there for all of our old shows. Everything is archived there in a couple different places. So with that being said, Greta Laughlin signing off on the corner bookstore, and I hope to see you very shortly on the Wise Ones. And immediately following that, I have a short program, about a half hour or so, on what would I do with regard to your health awareness and stuff about that. So with that being said, have a wonderful season here at the end of the year, and we will catch you next week. Bye now.
In a world full of noise, misunderstandings, and interruptions, master the art of listening with Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck is the listening mentor of USA Global TV and Radio and the Amazon #1 best-selling author of Mastering the Power of Elevated Listening. Elevate your listening. Elevate your life. Join a global learning experience in person or via Zoom. Reserve your spot today. usaglobaltv.com/book-your-session or drjacalyn.thinkific.com. Join Dr. Kerbeck's listening courses or hire her to unlock deeper connections and authentic conversations.